Woo! Yeah, okay, we're gonna get excited about this because this novel is all about girls, but told from a guy, so be wary. My presentation is called 5 to 1, sorry, I was thinking I had 5 to 1, and it's High Fidelity by Hornby, and you probably know it. It's like a movie that was made in the 2000s, but the movie does not follow the book at all. It's not similar. So yeah. I'll explain why it's called 5 to 1. The novel is often described as lad lit, you know, those British people, because it's a male perspective novel, and it's like brutally honest, revealing about how like men feel about expressing like love and sexuality like mixed together, and it's kind of a coming of age story, but like 15 years too late, because he's in his like 30s, and the main protagonist it's really isolating having to read the novel, one being a girl, because he makes it very clear that like women are kind of trashy, like no matter what type of woman you are. But it's also just the fact that he doesn't really understand himself, and so he thinks that if he rejects other people and objectifies them, then he can rise above them. And so the main character is Rob Fleming, and his main issue is that he has this obsessive compulsion to make top 5 lists of everything in his life, and he kind of uses that in a way to like organize his life, and he works at a record store, and so he kind of organizes his life just like the records, like alphabetically, in categories and stuff like that. So the main list that the book concerns is his top 5 girlfriends. What spurred this list to be written was rejection from his one true love, Laura, and basically after Laura dumped him, he was like, well, I can make a top 5 list, and if I don't include her, then obviously, you know, she wasn't in the top 5, she wasn't that consequential to my life. So he believes that he can like sort of control his life just by like speaking it and writing it down, which obviously isn't true. And basically in the list he includes pointless relationships, and he revisits these relationships throughout the books, and each of them in the same way, where he confronts the person, he talks to them, he realizes the differences, he remembers why they broke up, and he either confronts them personally or he thinks about them. And he needs to move on, and he keeps coming back to Laura. And he even goes so far as to include his first kiss, which was in 2nd grade, but not Laura, because he believes that that kiss was more important than like the love of his life. And so why it's called 5 to 1 is because he makes lists of top 5, but he needs to learn there can only be one to contend with. You know, he can't have top 5s anymore. He has to narrow it down. Okay, this is the first page of the novel. It's very odd. Then, what? Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is that, and this book is too, is that sort of distancing yourself from your life and removing yourself from the subject matter is definitely not an okay to live your life, and it's kind of a defective defense mechanism that the main character struggles with by sort of distancing himself from the emotions, and then he's just like, I have control of them, when she obviously doesn't, because he has mental breakdowns and cries a lot. And so since it is kind of like sort of a coming of an age story, but like 15 years too late, it's kind of not, I wouldn't say gross, but I can't really think of a more apt word to describe it. It's kind of gross to see how he sort of views his love life, because he's like, well, as long as I'm like physically happy, then there's no need to like examine further like emotions or speak or have open conversations with my partner, as long as it's like, you know, the sex is okay. And he like becomes obsessed with this. And so when Laura finally asks him to settle down, he's like, no, marriage is going to make it boring, and he blames it on her for the breakup. So yeah, these it's basically just a warning that these behaviors shouldn't follow you into adulthood, obviously. How I'm trying to tell you this and how the book tries to tell you this is as he like buries himself, like his like emotions and everything away from himself, he does that through all the music that he listens to. And he, like I said, he owns a record store, and he sees himself as like the highest music snob ever. And like, you know, music snobs, they're annoying, and he is extremely annoying too, because people come into the store and they're like, can I have this? And then he's just like, oh, you're garbage. And he's like, that song's garbage too. And he's an actual like horrible person. Like, he needs to grow up. He doesn't realize that people have differing tastes. He doesn't realize that, like, you know, people are individuals and not everyone is going to see things his way. And he kind of, it's part of the isolating issue, is that he only can think of his mind. He can't like go and think of like what other people would experience. So the music basically speaks for him, and it has a lot of songs throughout the novel. There's like a playlist of like 30-something songs online of like all the songs mentioned to it. And when you actually listen to the songs, you're kind of like, what was going through his mind? Because they're all differing styles, but somehow like those are the only good songs. So it's not like he even has a genre that he particularly likes, which you would think it would be like rock or something with his like adolescence. But it's just, he has like specific songs, so it makes narrowing down his personality even more of an issue. So it's very odd. And basically, he doesn't ever come out from behind the music except for once, when he goes to see Laura. Once he's exhausted his top 5 list, he goes to see Laura because her father died, and they were very close, him and her father, during their relationship, and he had a lot of influence on him. And so finally, when they go to the funeral, they attempt to elope, but that does not happen because that would be messed up. But they try nevertheless. Anyways, he realizes then that when the failed action happened, he's like, I can be happy with this girl. I don't have to constantly like have to be physical with her. Like, she obviously satisfies some emotional need in him, and he starts opening up, and he stops doing all the ridiculous song lyrics and like playlists and everything. So you're like, okay, maybe he's going to get on the right track. However, 2 weeks later, he's like, okay, well, this girl's pretty though, so I'm gonna cheat on Laura. And I know, you're just like, okay, we've gotten this far, we're so close to the end. But, and you think he's going to fall into that spiral again, but this is the one time that he actually ends up using his lists for good, and he makes her a playlist, and he falls in love with her because he realizes that this is the only list he should be making, is making her happy by all of the songs that he loves. And then why? Obviously why I'm trying to tell you this and why he wrote this is that life cannot be lived from a distance, and you can't like, remove yourself. Basically, when the funeral happened, I sort of saw it as when you die, like all of your possessions are listed off, you're all filed into a will, everything you own, it's all categorized and divided off. And that's what he was sort of doing with his life, but he was still living. So I think he kind of realized that like I need to stop pretending like my life's already happened, it has already over, and I'm like documenting this myself. I need to start living it, and so he stops, at least as far as we are aware, writing the lists and being kind of compulsive about organizing his thoughts like that, at least in a negative way. And like I said, he makes her a playlist, to solidify that love that he has for her. So basically the moral is just don't distance yourself, like recognize your emotions and become, a participator in